The first Hell in a Cell. The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. Bad Blood, 1997. The night Kane debuted, and the night wrestling changed forever. Every fan of the Attitude Era knows these words, Hell in a Cell, a phrase that doesn't just describe a match, but a feeling, a madness. When people talk about the greatest moments in WWE history, they always come back to this night. The first Hell in a Cell wasn't just insane, it was revolutionary. It was blood, betrayal, storytelling and chaos all welded together in steel. The first Hell in a Cell, The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. Bad Blood, 1997. Let's go back to the night wrestling walked into hell and never came back the same. Before the cell, there was betrayal. Shawn Michaels wasn't just the Heartbreak Kid. He was chaos in human form, arrogant, brilliant, dangerous, and above all, untouchable. Months earlier, Michaels had cost The Undertaker the WWF Championship, smashing him in the face with a chair at SummerSlam. It wasn't business, it was personal. Michaels lit the fire, and Hell in a Cell was built to contain the explosion. The Undertaker. He wasn't just coming for revenge, he was coming for redemption, for justice in a world with none. This wasn't good versus evil, it was something darker, heaven versus hell, the arrogance of man versus the wrath of the dead. When the door slammed shut, something changed. Even the fans felt it. No escape, no disqualification, no rules, only steel and survival. Michaels tried to dance, to dodge, to escape, but the cell followed him like a curse. The Undertaker's strikes were heavy, echoing like thunder. Every hit, every slam against the steel. It wasn't wrestling anymore. It was punishment. And yet, Shawn wouldn't die. He crawled, bled, screamed, but refused to break. A trapped angel in the devil's playground. At one moment, Shawn tried to escape. He climbed the cell, desperate, terrified, bleeding. And the audience rose with him. Then came the fall. A plunge from the side of the cell through the announce table. A moment frozen in time. That crash wasn't just sound. It was history being written. Blood covered his face. The crowd screamed. Even the announcers went silent. But Undertaker didn't stop. He wasn't done. He dragged Michaels' broken body back into the ring because inside hell, mercy doesn't exist. For the first time ever, the cell door was opened. Chaos spilling out. Michaels was crawling through blood and steel. The Undertaker followed, like a reaper collecting a soul. The fight climbed back to the roof. A vision straight out of a nightmare. No stuntmen, no safety nets, just two legends rewriting the rules. Every punch felt like the last. Every moment, a gamble between glory and death. And then, the lights went out. For 10 eternal seconds, the arena disappeared into darkness. No sound, no movement, only the heartbeat of 20,000 people, waiting. Then, fire, red, burning, alive. And from the smoke, he appeared, Kane. The monster that The Undertaker swore was gone. The brother that wasn't supposed to exist. The secret that had been buried for decades was walking through Hell's Gate. He ripped the door off its hinges, literally, not opened, ripped. The steel bent like paper in his hands. Paul Bearer followed behind him, smiling. That twisted, knowing smile, the kind only a man who controls monsters could wear. The crowd? They lost their minds. People were screaming, jumping, crying. They felt it. It wasn't just an entrance. It was a resurrection. Inside the ring, The Undertaker stood frozen. For the first time in years. Fear. The dead man, the phenom, the unstoppable force, had found something that could stop him. Kane is here, the announcers shouted, their voices shaking. And then, fire met darkness. The ring posts erupted in flames. The crowd gasped as hell itself came alive. This wasn't just a debut, it was a prophecy fulfilled. The night The Undertaker's past came walking through fire to drag him back into. For years, The Undertaker's legend was untouchable, cold, distant, immortal. But in that moment, his story cracked. When the smoke cleared, one man was standing. Shawn Michaels, covered in blood, barely conscious, leaning on the ropes. He had won. But nobody cared, because victory didn't matter anymore. What the world had just seen wasn't a wrestling match. It was a transformation. The cage was twisted, broken, and painted in blood. Kane had vanished. Undertaker was gone. And Shawn had survived hell itself. The fans were silent, not from boredom, but from awe. For the first time, wrestling had felt real. Pain had a story. Violence had meaning. Every drop of blood told a chapter in something greater than sport. Hell in a Cell wasn't a gimmick anymore. It was a curse. A symbol that once you entered, a piece of you stayed there forever. That night changed everything. Kane was here. The Undertaker was human again. And the WWF had found its next great myth, the story that would define an entire generation. It's been more than 25 years, and still, fans talk about that night. The first Hell in a Cell wasn't just a match. It was a revolution. It changed the way wrestling told stories. It pushed the limits of what was real, what was pain, and what was possible. Every match that came after, from Mankind's fall in '98 to Triple H and Batista's Wars, carries a piece of that night. But no one can recreate it, because the first time is never repeated. It wasn't just about steel and violence. It was art. It was theatre made of pain and passion. Every scream, every drop of blood, it meant something. The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels didn't just give us a show. They gave us mythology. They turned wrestling into a religion. Fans today still watch that grainy footage, still gasp when Kane rips the door open, still feel the shock of that moment when everything changed. It's not nostalgia, it's reverence. Because Hell in a Cell wasn't built to contain men. It was built to reveal them, their fears, their limits, their truths. And that's why, decades later, we still whisper the same words. The first Hell in a Cell, The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels' Bad Blood, 1997. The night wrestling changed forever. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep the attitude alive.